Alright, today I'm going to show you how to make a lid for your pumpkin. The lid is important because we have to get inside here and hollow our pumpkin out. So I'm going to start. I've got my pumpkin sitting on a banding wheel, and let's talk about where that lid should be. If we have it up way too far at the top, it's going to make it hard to hollow out because we're not going to have as much room to put our loop tool in there. If we come way down too low, we're not going to have as much room for our face if you want to put a face in here. So I'm going to go about an inch out from my stem and make just a little mark, and then I'm going to plant my elbow on the table while spinning my banding wheel. This only works if your pumpkin is sitting right in the center of your banding wheel. And hopefully when you get around, your lines meet. Next thing I've got to do is cut the lid off. This part can be scary because these aren't hollow like a normal pumpkin is, but some of the same stuff applies. So when you cut the lid off of a normal pumpkin, you want your knife at an angle. That way the lid doesn't just slide straight off and it doesn't fall in. So that's the kind of angle we want. But again, because these aren't hollow, we've basically got to be able to have our knife meet here and here as we get around there. So I'm going to put the knife in right on that line. I'm making a 45-degree angle. So this is flat, this is, vertical. So I want to be right in between those two. Insert that knife quite a bit. And again, that part is scary for some people because they worry about it coming out the other side. So I've got that knife about halfway in. I'm going to go just a tiny bit more, and now I'm ready to cut the lid off. So I'm not going to saw at it. I'm going to let the sharpness of the knife take care of the cutting, and I'm going to just try to stay on that line the best I can. And really trying to make sure that these come back together and meet when we get here. So once I get here, you'll see the lid start to spin, and it should come right out. If it doesn't come out, that means you probably didn't go deep enough where there's a little piece hanging on. So you just kind of have to work at it gently until you get that out. Something I should have done before I hollowed it was make a registration mark. So on the outside, I'm just going to make a little scratch so that I know where that lid goes back together. And now I'm ready to start hollowing. So when I hollow, I want to get everything down to about a half an inch. That's the perfect thickness for something made out of clay. Any thinner than that, it's going to be too delicate. Any thicker than that, you run the risk of things exploding. So I'm measuring inside, and I'm measuring from the groove, not from the outside of the wedge. And so I'll make some marks going around there. And now I'll connect the dots. Anything on the outside of this line I want to leave alone 100%. If I start messing with this area here, I'm going to affect how my lid fits. So I'm going to leave that part alone. This is where a bigger loop tool can be handy. So what I'm going to do is start in the middle, and I'm going to rest this in my hand so that I don't end up flattening part of it out. The other thing about doing all this is I want to make sure that the form is exactly what I want before I start hollowing. I can't come back and adjust the form, add to it, or take away from it once I've hollowed, because then it'll be thinner or thicker than half an inch. So I'm starting right in the middle, and my goal right now is to figure out how far down I need to get. So here's the trick to that. If I know everything has to be a half an inch thick, and I make a mark a half an inch up from the bottom, going to be about right there. Again, just a little mark. And I take this tool and I put it down in the inside of there, and I mark where my thumb would touch that top rim. Granted, it's not touching it. It just is one of those things where I'm closing my eye and looking past it. So I mark where my thumb would touch that. Now I pick it up, move it to the outside, and again, hold my thumb where it would touch that. You can see that I'm a ways away from getting down to where I need to be. So that's the trick there. We'll repeat that until I've got the depth right. The next thing I can do is start working out towards the edge. So if I just start by opening this hole up a little wider, so as I get closer and closer to this line, the other thing I have to realize is I'm not just taking a cylinder out of the inside of this. Because my pumpkin is a sphere type shape, I need to also go inside at an angle a little bit to get all this down to a 1/2 inch. So the test I can do here is pinching with my finger. I'm not really pinching, I'm just measuring with my finger, and as I come down I can feel that my fingers are getting further and further apart. So the parts where it's getting further apart for me right now is right there. So that's an area that I need to work at some more. So that's the pinch test, and that's just checking to see what we need to get out. And that's generally where people kind of miss some stuff, is kind of what we would call the corner there, or behind that. The other part I want to hollow some is my lid. So you can see that I've cut this cone type shape and it's too thick. So I'm going to repeat that process of measuring in a 1/2 inch around. And you can see that part there needs to come off. So I can do that a couple ways. I can just start by slicing that extra chunk off and then work my way down to the right size with the loop tool. Again, I don't want to mess with that part where the lid is going to sit back on there. The other thing I want to avoid is putting my lid back on and leaving it on right away. It will re-stick itself. So there are my registration marks. Now it's time to make those permanent. So on the inside of my pumpkin, I'm going to make a good size dot, and I'm also going to make one right there where it goes, so that I have a dot and a dot to line up, and I know where those go, and I can smooth that out for the outside now.